Good morning from Athens, Greece. It is almost 8 o'clock here on this Saturday morning, and I am at the statue of President Harry S. Truman in Athens, Greece. And usually there's water fountains going like here and over there, so it's very noisy here at this fountain. But today, no water, no fountains. So I thought I would just come over here and do a quick video, talk about the news. I bet that everyone watching in the United States never thought that there would be a Harry Truman statue in Athens, but sure enough, there is. Harry S. Truman, President of the United States of America, April 12th, 1945 to January 20th, 1953. Statesman, humanitarian, philhellene, dedicated by the Order of Ahepa, May 29th, 1963. So, all the taxi drivers know this statue. So if you ever want to come downtown to close to the center of the city, and you don't know where to tell the taxi driver to take you, just tell them the statue of Truman and they'll drop you off right here. And you're pretty central. Anyway, let's talk about the news here. And this is interesting. There we go. You can make out the writing in English as well. I believe that it must be the policy of the United States to support free peoples who are I can't make that out either. Resisting, I think, at tempted. Very hard to read. Anyway, something. I guess it's something that Truman said over here, and it's in English, and it's in Greek as well. It's a pretty large text. So let's talk about the news. We're not going to talk about Truman anymore. We're going to talk about Boris Johnson. Yes, Boris, Peppa the Pig Johnson. He ran to Kiev in a panic. He got on a plane and went to Kiev completely unannounced. Kind of spur of the moment trip, spontaneous trip to Kiev out of panic following the meeting between Macron, Draghi, Scholz, and Iohannis of Romania. After they went to Kiev and they spoke with Zelensky, Boris Johnson got on a plane right away and met with Zelensky as well. And he brought all kinds of gifts. He brought some books. I believe the book he brought Zelensky was something, I forgot the name, in honor of the Queen or something like that. I forgot the title. Maybe I'll pull it up if I have it here. If I have it here, I'll pull it up. If not, let me know in the comments down below. So he came with a book and he came with other gifts for Zelensky. And the big gift that he had for Zelensky was to continue the war at all costs, and that the UK was ready to train tens of thousands of Ukraine military and just really ramp up the war. And according to Boris Johnson, the UK was going to help Ukraine win. They are all in with keeping this war going. And let me pull up an article. Queen of Our Times. That was the book that he brought Zelensky. Robert Hardman's book, Queen of Our Times. And then he tweeted, "To the Ukrainian people, the UK is with you, and we will be with you until you ultimately prevail." That was Boris Johnson's tweet. He also said, "Mr. President Volodymyr, actually, Boris, you're in Ukraine and the V is banned. So you should say, Mr. President Volodymyr, it is good to be in Kiev again." This is Boris Johnson's second trip. And Boris Johnson, according to Downing Street in a statement, Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister, has offered to launch a major training operation for Ukrainian forces with the potential to train up to 10,000 soldiers every 120 days. According to the Prime Minister's office, the UK-led program would train and drill the armed forces of Ukraine using battle-proven British Army expertise, allowing them to accelerate the deployment, rebuild their forces, and scale up their resistance as they continue to defend their nation's sovereignty against Russian invaders. So Boris freaked out after the trip from EU leaders to Kiev. Why did Macron, Scholz, Draghi, Johannes, why did their trip freak Boris out? Well, because those guys are looking for an off-ramp sometime around, say, the end of August, September, right before winter comes. They would like this conflict to wind down. And they were also very, very freaked out, as I said in my video yesterday, that the Biden White House is also looking to pull the ripcord and get out of this Ukraine mess. And they're going to dump it on Europe. They're going to dump it on the EU. So the EU leaders said, hell no, let's get to Kiev. Let's try to wind this down. Let's try to prevent the Biden White House from throwing Zelensky under the bus. That'll be a complete embarrassment to us if they turn Zelensky into some sort of pariah, some sort of despot. We need to give Zelensky EU candidacy, give him some support there. We need to talk to him and try to get him to negotiate with the Russians so we can wind this down. And we need to prevent the Americans, the Biden White House, from dumping this Ukraine catastrophe on Europe, on the European Union. Remember, the U.S. is far, far away. They can dump this on Europe, and the media will cover for Biden. Americans will forget about this conflict, and they'll move on to the next media news cycle story. Europe, well, Ukraine is in Europe. It's situated, bam, right in on the borders of the European Union, next to Poland, next to Hungary. You have the refugee issue. You have millions and millions of refugees in Europe. You have economic collapse in Europe, societal collapse in Europe. You're having a lot of EU governments on the brink of collapsing as well. Estonia, Bulgaria is on the brink of collapse, that coalition. Maybe even the Scholz government may collapse. You had the parliament results for France, which were the first round, which did not look good for Macron. So the EU they're panicking and they're saying we gotta figure a way out of this, and we gotta prevent the US from making Zelensky into some sort of villain and then dumping this Ukraine problem on Europe. A lot is at stake for the European Union. They have bet everything, their entire livelihood. Germany has bet their entire country, their entire existence, they've bet it on Ukraine. So you have them going to Kiev. They're looking for a way out of this. They want Zelensky to wind this war down. And the minute Boris Johnson heard this, he got on a plane right away and he went straight to Kiev in order to make sure that Zelensky does not wind this war down, but continues to escalate and escalate with the training of the Ukraine, with the training of the UK military. Boris Johnson is inserting the UK deeply into this conflict. The UK is getting sucked into this conflict, and that means conflict with Russia. Boris Johnson is going all in. He does not want this war to end. And you got to ask yourself, why? Why does Boris not want this war to end? Why does he want it to escalate? Why was he so panicked that the meeting between EU leaders and Zelensky might actually convince Zelensky to wind this war down, especially wind it down before Russia makes a move on Odessa, which also has freaked out the collective West. They do not want to lose Odessa. What is the reason for this? Boris, first of all, Boris obviously cares more about Ukraine than he does about the UK, because I've never seen Boris take such action and such initiative with UK domestic issues than what we saw yesterday when he jumped on a plane in panic and went to Kiev. So that's the first thing that's very, very interesting. The other thing that's interesting is, why does he care so much about escalation and keeping the war going? Is it the fact that this war may actually save his hide, and it acts as a good distraction from all the domestic problems that Boris Johnson has at the moment, whether you're talking about Partygate or the economic collapse in the UK? Does Boris actually think that the citizens of the UK are going to buy into the Ukraine war distraction and keep him as prime minister? Perhaps that's one reason. Is there something more to it? Is Boris acting as some sort of tool of the neocons? Is he representing the neocons? Did he go to Kiev on neocon orders to keep the war going? Possibly. Military-industrial complex. Is Boris getting a nice, 10% for the big guy from the MIC with regards to this war? And the MIC said, Boris, keep this war going. This has been a business boom for us. That could also be one of the reasons. I'm very, is this Churchillian, his Churchillian ego, where Boris believes that he's the next Churchill and destroying Russia is his goal in life? Is this his reason for existence, to destroy Russia? Perhaps. Remember, Lavrov yesterday, in his interview with the BBC, he said Boris Johnson and Liz Truss, they want to destroy Russia. They want to bring Russia to its knees. And what did Lavrov say to Boris Johnson and Liz Truss? He said, go for it. Do it then. Is Russia on a course with conflict with the UK? Was it not the Russians who released a video about a month ago where they had Poseidon missiles hitting off the coast of the UK and causing massive, like Poseidon nuke missiles, causing a massive tsunami over the UK? They didn't pick any other country. The Russians singled out the UK in those video simulations that were in the Russian media about a month and a half ago. There go the fountains. All right. So now we have the fountains. Now we have the noise. All right, so we're going to move on out then. So why does Boris want this escalation? Here's an interesting, and let me know in the comments down below, why do you think Boris is so panicky about a possible ceasefire or peace in Ukraine? Why does he want to avoid that at all costs? Why is he telling Zelensky that the UK military will train Ukraine soldiers so that they can continue to fight this war? I don't know. One thing is interesting, though. Mark Rutte of the Netherlands the other day also said that Europe needs to continue to provide military aid to Ukraine and keep the war going. And Mark Rutte even said, we're not going to fight the war as Europe or NATO, but we want But we want the Ukrainians to fight the war on our behalf. Rutte said it. Rutte said that the EU wants the Ukraine to fight the war so that NATO and the EU doesn't fight the Russians. The Netherlands, they are very, very closely tied to the UK, much more than with Germany. So for Mark Rutte to continue to want to escalate, and for Boris Johnson to continue to want to escalate, I'm trying to figure out, what is the connection there? What is the connection with the Netherlands and the UK and their desire for full escalation and their desire to continue this war at the cost of Ukrainian lives and at the cost of destroying all of Ukraine? Why do they want to continue with this war? I'm trying to figure out the connection between the Netherlands and the UK and the panic to escalate. Anyway, let me know in the comments down below. Honestly, I've got a couple of reasons why I believe Boris wants to escalate. Like I said, it's his ego, it's a distraction, it's the fact that he's speaking on behalf of the neocons, of the military-industrial complex. I think all of these factors, but let me know why you believe Boris wants to continue this war and wants to escalate at all costs. Anyway, we saw the statue of Truman, and here is the statue of Gandhi, right next to the statue of Truman. Mahatma Gandhi. There is no way to peace. Peace is the way. Mahatma Gandhi. Unveiled by His Excellency, the External Affairs Minister of India. And His Excellency, the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Greece, Nikos Dendias. City of Athens, June 2021. This is a fairly new statue. It's awesome. 1869 to 1948. So here's the statue of Gandhi. Very interesting that it's right next to the statue of Truman. Make of that what you will. So let's, what else do we want to talk about here? So yeah, we're talking about the United States and how the U.S. wants to pull out of Ukraine. They want to find a way out of this mess, or at least a certain part of the Biden White House wants out of this mess. Well, we have another story, and I believe this was on the Washington Post or the New York Times. Anyway, this story is running with the narrative, with the claim that Biden, all wise, all knowing, very diplomatic Joe Biden actually was telling Blinken and Austin and various hawks in the White House to tone down the Russia bashing. I am not joking. This article is actually saying that Biden was telling some of his officials in the White House, basically the Clinton, Nuland neocon camp, that they need to tone down their Russia-hating rhetoric. True story. And once again, this is all about giving Biden some sort of off-ramp from this conflict. You know, Biden, he was the one that warned Zelensky in February that the Russians are going to invade. He was the one that told his staff not to take such a bellicose, radical stance against the Russians. He was the one that was talking about being moderate and not being hysterical about this. This is the picture that they're trying to paint in and around Biden, and they're trying to make him seem like he was the voice of reason. He was the moderate one. He was the one saying, let's not, go full hog on these shock and awe sanctions. He was the one warning his staffers that there's going to be a boomerang effect with regards to inflation and energy, price hikes, and all of these things if they continue on this very hysterical, radical, angry approach towards Russia. He was the one that warned about the consequences of the war and how the Russians would eventually win. This is the picture that I believe they're trying to paint now with regards to Biden, which gives him a nice look, a nice facade, so that he can pull out of this Ukraine debacle, and while at the same time painting Zelensky as an incompetent. Zelensky was the one that wouldn't listen to me. Zelensky is the one that continues to escalate. He's the one that doesn't want to speak with the Russians. He was the one that wasn't listening to our military. Our military, we tried to tell him how to fight the Russians, but the Ukraine military under Zelensky's command, they weren't listening to nothing. They weren't listening to us, and they weren't sharing information with us. Remember that story from the New York Times just last week? So I think you can see where everything is heading with regards to the Biden White House, or at least a certain part of the Biden White House, how they want out of this. I'm trying to see if I have any quotes here from this from this story that is now making the rounds with regards to Biden and how he was telling Blinken and Austin to calm things down. This was from NBC. I said Washington Post or New York Times. NBC. A bombshell investigation from NBC revealed President Biden sought to clamp down on the ratcheted Ukraine war rhetoric of his top officials on fears their words would make escalation with Russia inevitable and would set false expectations among allies. It would set false expectations among allies. You want to know what that sentence is saying? Biden was right. The EU were crazy and hysterical, and they wanted to escalate, and now look at the mess you got us in. That is exactly the narrative. Biden is looking, the media operation around Biden, I think they've come to the agreement that the story they're going to concoct is Biden was the voice of reason, Blinken and Austin were nutcases, Newland was a nutcase, the EU and Vander Crazy was crazy, and everyone wanted to escalate, and Biden was the one saying, guys, calm down. All you're going to do is make matters worse, and all you're going to do is escalate things, and you're going to create false expectations as well. That is exactly what they're looking to do. Anyway, that's the bombshell story from NBC. I've got a really good clown world, by the way, which is connected to Boris and Zelensky. The final story I want to get to, though, is, and there is the story about this tugboat that supposedly the Ukraine military they got to. They destroyed with a Harpoon missile. This is according to Ukraine Major General Marchenko, I believe is his name. Supposedly, the Ukraine military, it hasn't been confirmed by the Russians, and I haven't seen it confirmed in many other places as well. But they're claiming that they got a tugboat that was transferring Russian troops to Snake Island, and they took out something like 20 Russian troops on that tugboat, and 10 Russian troops are missing. I don't know. This is coming from this Major General Marchenko. A word of caution. I'm not saying this story is true or not true, but a word of caution with this guy Marchenko. He's, and I believe it's Marchenko. He was on record, Marchenko, Dmitry Marchenko. He was on record just last week saying that once Ukraine gets these Harpoon missiles and gets the MLRS missiles, that they're going to take out the bridge in Crimea, the bridge that connects, the Kerch Bridge, that connects Russia to Crimea, the Kerch Strait Bridge. He said that, and he once again made claims that Ukraine is going to take Crimea back. So this guy, he has a bit of a mouth. he likes to talk, and he likes to talk things up. So I'm not saying what he is saying is false. I'm not saying what he is saying is accurate. I'm just saying a word of caution with this Marchenko guy. So what was I saying? We're going to do a good clown world, which is connected to Boris and Zelensky. But the next thing I want to talk about is this list of foreign fighters that the Russians put out. So the Russians released, the Russian Ministry of Defense, and once again, this is the Russian Ministry of Defense, so make of it what you will. Is it accurate? Is it not? This is coming from the Russian side of things. I've always taken the belief that the information that the Russian Ministry of Defense puts out is pretty damn accurate, because they're very, very careful. They're under a lot of scrutiny from mainly from the collective West. And they're very, very careful to make sure that the information they put out is pretty accurate. I'm not saying they don't over or under count things, and I'm not saying that they don't push out propaganda, but for the most part, the Ministry of Defense, they're very careful, and that's why they're very delayed in putting out stuff as well. They're always like 1 or 2 days behind what many of the, say, independent analysts are putting out there with regards to the conflict, because they're very, very careful in what they put out. Anyway, they put out a list of the foreign mercenaries who have died in Ukraine. And they've put out a list of the mercenaries that that are active from other countries in Ukraine. How do they know these numbers? I don't know. I don't know how they know the numbers of all the active foreign fighters or all the foreign fighters that have died. I mean, I'm sure there are ways of counting and keeping track of these things. Anyone in the comments down below, let me know how you believe the Russians are keeping such accurate counts, because they're putting out some pretty accurate numbers. I mean, they're not saying, like 1,000 Polish fighters in Ukraine. They're saying a very specific number. So anyway, the Russian Defense Ministry, they published yesterday, on Friday, data about foreign mercenaries fighting in Ukraine. According to the ministry, 6,956 people have arrived in Ukraine since February 24th, when the war started. 1,956 have died in battles, while 1,779 left the country. As of Friday, at least 3,221 foreigners are fighting on the Ukrainian side. Defense Ministry spokesman Igor Konashenkov said at a press briefing in Moscow, currently not only mercenaries directly taking part in hostilities as part of Ukrainian troops are put in our database, we also count instructors arrived to teach, provide assistance in the operation and repair of Western weapons supplied to Ukraine. So these are not only fighters, this is kind of everybody, people repairing weapons, trainers, all of the people. So according to Konashenkov, and I actually talked about this in Thessaloniki, when I said, where you had the Georgian Ukraine mercenary commander. I talked about this article. He came out and he gave some numbers saying that the UK has the second most mercenaries. The US is number 3, and he didn't give the number 1. And I asked everybody, what do you think is number 1? I said, probably Poland. A lot of people said Poland, Croatia, Georgia, Canada. Well, according to Konashenko, the number 1 country is Poland. Poland is the undisputed leader, that's his quote, among European countries by the number of mercenaries that arrived and died since the beginning of the war. Some 1,831 Polish fighters came to Ukraine. 378 of them lost their lives, and 272 returned home. This is interesting. Romania is the second, as 504 Romanian mercenaries joined the Ukrainian troops. 102 died and 98 left Ukraine. This is Europe, by the way, Europe. The UK follows with 422 mercenaries that arrived, 101 dead, and 95 that have left Ukraine. Now going to America, Canada is the principal supplier of mercenaries from the American continent, as 601 of its citizens have entered Ukraine since February, while 162 of them died and 169 left the country. The U.S. is second with 530 that have arrived, 214 died, 227 mercenaries that left Ukraine. From the Middle East, you have from the Middle East, South Caucasus, and Asia. The most 355 mercenaries came from Georgia, of which 120 were killed and 90 left Ukraine. Now, I know that there were reports from Greek media saying that you have 4 Greek mercenaries, and actually 1 Greek mercenary was killed. And you also had reports, actually I think Croatia was pretty high on the list as well with regards to Europe. The amount, as a European country that has sent a lot of mercenaries. Luxembourg, I think, was almost dead last. I think that was last on the list, was Luxembourg. But yeah, it was, France was kind of high on the list. I'm trying to remember the full list that I saw. Anyway, these are the numbers that are coming out from the Russian Ministry of Defense. Poland, Romania, UK, Canada, Georgia, the United States. There you have it. There you have it. And Poland, according to the Russian Ministry of Defense, is the undisputed leader with regards to mercenaries fighting in Ukraine. So it's really interesting. UK, the Netherlands, and Poland. Those are the 3 countries that are really, really digging into this conflict with Russia. They're the ones that are really invested and really want to escalate things with Ukraine and with Russia in this area. I find that very, very interesting. So, should we end the video there? I'm trying to think if I have anything else that I want to talk about. We talked about Putin's speech at the St. Petersburg International Economic Forum. I talked about that in the video I did last night. And Putin said the old world is over. He also said that the Western elites, they're going down, down. And trying to think if I have any other quotes from Putin that I may want to talk about here. Putin said that Russia was aware that some irresponsible Western politicians, despite their seniority, have been ranting about Russia allegedly upping the nuclear ante. He said, "What are we supposed to do? We respond accordingly. As soon as we answered, they cling to us and say, 'Here is Russia threatening.' We do not threaten anything, but everyone should know what we have and what we will use if necessary to protect our sovereignty." Russia does not bluff. They do not bluff. Putin is not bluffing there. And Kiev actually released the amount of weapons that they've lost. And this is coming from the Kiev, the Ukraine side of things. And Ukraine has said that they have lost up to half of their heavy weapons, and Western supplies are unable to fill the gap. This is according to the Ukraine military. Ukraine has lost up to 50% of its heavy weapon stocks, including 400 tanks. The country's land forces command logistics commander, Volodymyr Karpenko, revealed earlier this week amid the ongoing Russian military offensive in the country. So we have lost approximately 50%, approximately 1,300 infantry fighting vehicles have been lost, 400 tanks and 700 artillery systems. And then he says, give us more weapons. So 50% of their weapons, and then comes the ask. We need more weapons. That is the ask from Ukraine. So that's why they're releasing those numbers. So that's coming from the Ukraine side of things. And some other things to note. Google in Russia is filing for bankruptcy. That's an interesting story. They've incurred something like 7.5 billion rubles in fines from the Russian government, and now they're filing for bankruptcy. I'm not sure what the bankruptcy laws are like in Russia or what protections they're offered. That's just the story there. With regards to Google, and in my video last night that I did from the Olympic Stadium, I said, isn't it interesting that you have the Kazakhstan president sitting right next to Putin during the St. Petersburg International Forum? I said, that's interesting that he's the one that was picked to sit next to Putin. And sure enough, we have the announcement that Kazakhstan is now recognizing the DPR and Lugansk as quasi nations, quasi countries. So they're giving them like a quasi recognition. I'm not sure what exactly that means, but it's one step towards formal recognition of Donetsk and Lugansk. So I thought I would just relay that to everybody. And finally, let's get to our clown world. And Boris Johnson visits Zelensky in Kiev. And I have no idea where I am. Let's just keep walking. And he not only brings books and military training and war escalation, but Zelensky has a gift for Boris Johnson, and Boris Johnson has kind of a gift for Zelensky, and that has to do with Eurovision. And it looks like London will be hosting Eurovision, or at least the UK will be hosting Eurovision. The UK is already in talks with the organization to pick a venue and to get everything tied up. But Zelensky just, 3-4 weeks ago? Didn't he say that Eurovision will be taking place in Mariupol? That was his exact statement. We will be hosting Eurovision in Mariupol. Obviously, Ukraine won Eurovision. That was a given before the contest even took place. But Zelensky vowed, he promised that Eurovision would take place in Mariupol. And now you have Boris Johnson in a panic, rushing to Kiev, bringing military training, bringing in a book for Zelensky, and also telling Zelensky that, yeah, we're also going to be hosting Eurovision. I don't know if this was Zelensky's idea to Boris Johnson, or if this was Boris Johnson saying, we're going to take this over. Who knows? But the official story is that the Eurovision committee has realized that they will not be able to host the song contest in Ukraine. And so they're turning to London. They're turning to the UK, of course. Why not? And so that's the clown world, everybody. So Boris Johnson, he had a busy day yesterday in Kiev, didn't he? Very, very busy boy, Boris. If only Boris Johnson would take such care of the country that he's supposedly leading, well, then maybe the UK wouldn't be on the brink of economic collapse. But obviously, Boris Johnson is more interested with what's happening in Ukraine, oddly enough. Anyway, that is the video, guys. The Duran.locals.com. Check it out. Check out Alexander's. I went full circle. All I did is a freaking circle. Check out Alexander's channel as well. He is doing great analysis on what's going on in the world, really, in the world, because all of this is connected to all of our lives, especially with regards to the prices of things and inflation and the economics. So check out Alexander's channel and, of course, the Duran channel, where we are doing all kinds of great shows and analysis and live streams covering all kinds of topics. I am signing out. The Duran.locals.com. Once again, take care, everybody.